So following up, actually, from Venerable Lamsel's talk yesterday, I also have been working on self-centered thoughts and old mind habits that have been coming up lately. You're probably familiar with the idiom, the straw that broke the camel's back. No, not everyone, not our non-native English speakers. So what this means, it's from the proverb, it's the last straw that breaks the camel's back. And the idea is that one straw is light enough, second straw light, third straw getting heavier, fourth, fifth, sixth, zillion. But there's only one that's the final that breaks the whole thing, right? The straw that broke, and that causes some unpredictable or sudden large reaction, right? The accumulation of little things cause a big thing. So I've been looking at a habit of mine that I thought had been buried, but it's back. Maybe you have one like this. You have thoughts that go, that's it. Familiar? Some people. I've had it. I'm done. I'm over it. I'm out of here. Now, do we actually mean it when we have those thoughts? I mean, sometimes people do. Sometimes people really do, or they verbalize it. Mine is not so verbal, it's more internal. Sometimes people really verbalize it. I'm out of here. And then it becomes sort of a little threat that you need to be careful because you don't want the person to be out of here. But I'm just guessing that people have this mental thing happening from time to time. True or not true? Is it just me? Otherwise, I'll just stop. No, okay. So this is a learned behavior for me, maybe for you too. I learned it from my parents. It's sort of mechanism number one. Things get tough, I'm out of here. And out of here has different things. You know, in the old days, things get tough, I'm out of here, let's have a drink. Or two, or three, or four, or more. Or I'm out of here, let's have a big bowl of ice cream. Kind of quells the thought of so much suffering. Or I'm out of here, take a Valium and go to bed. Or I'm out of here, just get sick and go to bed over there for a while. Just a few days, just chill out a little bit. So sometimes we let these straws pile up and pile up and pile up until we actually do leave. And sometimes I'm not talking about leaving propelled by wisdom, but propelled by affliction. Anybody had that experience where they've just let things pile up so much that they walked out and then realized later, oh, that was stupid? Yeah, I've done that too. But what I'm observing in myself is just the habit that when there's a small hurt or a small pain, I've had it. I'm out of here. What affliction do you think that is? Aversion. Pride? What else? What? Attachment to pleasure. What else? Laziness. Anger, that's what I think it is. Anger. Anger with aspects of all of these other ones. But I'm thinking it's anger. And it can go into the laziness of discouragement really easily. And that comes a whole other pile-up thing. So, I'm thinking about, so I'm trying to analyze this. Why is this up? Well, for me, it's up because we have this new reorganization plan. And things are not going as smoothly as I hoped they would, moment to moment. Okay, I can set that aside. But what's the actual cause of my discomfort in my mind? Habit. Why am I so unhappy? It's a result of my own past negative action. The direct, well, not the direct, but the substantial cause of what's arising in my mind. The principal cause. We're not using substantial, or is it? Okay. The principal cause of what's arising in my mind is the imprint of my own past negative action. It's not, the piling up, the third criticism of the day, which is, I think it is, or the third eye rolling and lip clamping of the day. It's not even verbal, necessarily. Or, the fact that there's no hot water on the tea container for the third time today. So it accumulates. But are these really cataclysmic? Is this tragic enough to walk out of here? I've had it? I don't think so. But what happens, I'm seeing, is that one little hurt, unaddressed, festers. Another little hurt, a little unacknowledged, unrecognized maybe, unaddressed, festers some more. Now we have this ground of discontent that is the seed for anger, the fuel for anger to grow, right? Another little hurt, unaddressed, allowed to fester until boom, explosion. It could be explosion because somebody put spatula in the wrong place. It could be an explosion like walking out of here. But what does it all boil down to? I believe, What? Yes? Self-centeredness, indeed. Indeed, indeed. But the special flavor of this one, I think, is failing to have cultivate the fortitude to willingly bear suffering. Duh. I mean, come on. And we are talking about tiny sufferings. And so, I'm out of here has this fantasy of running down the hill to the Pure Land or something. I don't even know. It doesn't, for me, it doesn't go any further than that. For many of us, I think, I don't know, Asia trips, back home, back to our childhood, whatever. But it's really just a front. It's really a wall that stops the mind from actually looking at what's going on inside. It's like a preventive measure. Oh. And usually it is followed by, let's have a snack. Let's have a cup of tea. Let's go for a walk. Let's do anything but think about this suffering that has had it, whatever it may be. So I'm looking at the antidotes. What do you think? Patience, fortitude. Yes, what does that mean? How do I practice that? Looking at the disadvantages of anger and what that does to your mind. It's true. Especially those little teeny tiny pileups where you can hardly see. You just have kind of a cranky mind. Like, kind of a complaining, whiny mind that goes on after about the third day. Sorry it's taking me so long. You go, oh, that's anger. That's painful. That's ugly. And it's not so nice for the people around me. But those are disadvantages. Yeah. What else? Yes, what? Yes, look at my wrong syllogisms. Take the subject, Tupchen Chini. She should have hot water whenever she wants it because she likes tea. Is that a valid syllogism? No.
Well, I find myself in this sometimes too, and it's like, first of all, Semke, you're in samsara. What do you expect?
Yeah.
Come on, get out of the illusion. The second one is, how many times have you suffered in your life for the happiness of just this life?
Good.
We're talking about working on your mind. You've gone through a lot of hardship, pushing yourself to the limit for just having some sort of worldly experience. This is about practicing and transforming your mind, and you're getting upset at this?
Yeah.
So it's like putting it up against, comparing it to what I've already suffered for, which has no long-term benefit, and that this is going to be worth something if I can just wrap my mind around it and work with it.
Yeah, that's a good one. We have to make ourselves sit down and think it through. We have to do that. And I think one of the things too, I went back to my notes from studying patience last year, and that really having to look at the value of having fortitude. What's the payoff? If, as Shantideva says, there is nothing that cannot become easier if we familiarize ourselves with it. There is nothing that doesn't become easier. These are tiny sufferings. I am not in Yemen trying to feed myself or my babies. I am not a Syrian refugee trying to find a home. I am not a person in the United States who is easily deported, likely to get shot for going into the 7-Eleven. I don't have those conditions. So what is it about my little discomfort that I can't get familiar with, to create a mind that could endure those conditions and take them into the path? Because I tell you what I've been watching in my mind lately, there's not a lot of fortitude there. I was a little disappointed. I thought it was doing better. But it goes like this. Right? And everybody in this room has heard the stories of Tibetans who were, imprisoned during the time of the Cultural Revolution and tortured for years, and were so admiring of their practice of not wanting to give up bodhicitta. That's a huge, huge suffering, and something I really would aspire to be able to do. But if I can't handle 3 eye rolls in a row, I'm kind of weak. Don't you think? Don't you think? So I think it's really very important for me, and I want to share it with all of us, because I think there's a lot of kind of bumpiness in this particular time right now, as we're working to figure out, well, what's my job now? And that used to be my job, and they don't do it the same way I do, and you do it differently. And well, who's in charge of this anyway? Oh, nobody's in charge. How do we figure that? All of those kind of, or I have more than I used to, or that person is not working as much as they used to. Whatever's going on in our mind around all these changes that are going on at the Abbey. To take the time to stop and first of all realize that when I hear, I've had it, this is the self-centered, complaining mind. Hello. Oh, hello. Familiar. I don't know about friend, but familiar. This is the self-centered, complaining mind. 2, realize that it indicates that I am suffering. Really acknowledge that. This is suffering. This is pain. What's happening with that? So I can attend to that on the one hand. I can look at what are my feelings and needs, which is, I think, an appropriate thing to do. What's underneath that you need? Can you take care of that yourself? But also to realize, why am I really unhappy? This is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon me for wrongs I have done. This is my own past actions coming up to ripen me. To ripen and affect my experience. 4, then some antidotes to memorize. We all, I think, have memorized and fondly recite the Shantideva quote. Can I do something about this situation? If not, there is no reason to be upset. I should simply drop it. Can I do something about this situation? If so, there is no reason to be upset. Just do it. And then 6, this one is very good for me too. If I die tomorrow, how important is this? Following up on that, 1 year from now, will I even remember this? But let's assume I lived that long. Let's just go with, if I die tomorrow, how important is this? So I wanted to go back to my notes here, because I remember that Geshe Gelsen gave us a very, oops, did I lose it already? Gave us a really nice example about 3 different kinds of minds. So let's say you get a terminal diagnosis, right? That's what we imagine is the worst that could happen, and sooner or later we will. And there's 3 kinds of people that have that kind of, that would get this diagnosis. So the first one is a person who hasn't familiarized themselves with small sufferings. And so when something that intense or heavy falls upon their mind, the reaction can only be, oh my God, this is the worst thing that could possibly happen. Nobody has ever suffered like this. My suffering is so terrible. I'm all alone. And we just build, not just the suffering of the illness itself, but our mind is building further suffering that's mental suffering. So the second kind of person has some sort of familiarity with dealing with difficulties. And they think, okay, this is really difficult. I have only a short time left to live. This is definitely a suffering, but I'm not the only one. There are many other people who also have this diagnosis, who also have this suffering. So at least may I, through whatever I have to experience, can I also do it for their benefit? So that's another way of addressing it. And then the third person, who's very familiar and has worked a lot with accepting small sufferings and getting more and more familiar with them, receives the diagnosis and says, okay, this is many, many causes and conditions came together to bring this moment together. I'm experiencing the result of my own past negativities. I can use this opportunity right now to make a lot of merit, to benefit others, to practice compassion, and use this experience of suffering to really help me progress along the path. So that at the time of my death, it propels me towards higher rebirth and helps me on the path to my ultimate goals of liberation and full awakening. Let's use this now and do it joyfully. So you can imagine, there's no even need to explain the 3 different kinds of experiences each of those people would have. And, you know, he said very clearly, he said, if you can do the third, that's the best. If you can't, do the second. The first kind will only bring us more suffering, but because we've had these teachings, we heard this morning, it's unbelievable that we've received these teachings and what the Buddha had said about how things exist, the nature of reality, even just thinking about causes and conditions bringing about our experience. That's radical in this world, and how fortunate we are that we not only have that teaching, but also can use them then to create the causes for future happiness, not just so that there's plenty of hot water, but the happiness that comes from our liberation and our awakening, and practicing bodhicitta along the way. So that's been my internal process, trying not to pile up those kinds of straws of complaint, but to pile up the straws of merit and virtue, so that the straw of virtue doesn't break the camel's back. It transforms the camel into a human being who is meet the Dharma and progress along the path.